my topic is, which is the right match? Can DEXA of hip and radius be a potential alternative to QCT for diagnosis of spinal osteoporosis? The global burden of spinal osteoporosis is huge. If you look at these numbers, it's quite worrisome, where the prevalence of osteoporosis is 20 to 30% in females and 10 to 15% in males. Especially above the age of 50 years, the rate goes up to 14.5% in men, while it is 51.3% in women. And there's a lifetime risk of osteoporotic fracture is up to 50% in females and 30% in males. And 18% of these postmenopausal women were diagnosed with low BMD using a DEXA scan. Underdiagnosis is the main problem for these untreated spinal osteoporosis, where 30 to 70% of these postmenopausal women requiring a surgical intervention have low BMD. However, only 4 to 5% of them are diagnosed. So coming to the consequences of spinal osteoporosis, they're huge. Like chronic back pain, vertebral compression fractures, many implant-related complications like loosening, subsidence of cages, pseudoarthrosis, proximal junctional kyphosis, sagittal imbalance. For this, we need to understand the load distribution on the spine, where 80% of the physiological load is taken up by the anterior column, while the posterior column takes only 20% of it. As a person ages, the ratio widens up to 95 to 5. And also as the person ages, the risk of fragility fractures also increases. So where is the problem? It's with the vertebral body, which is the anterior column. The anterior column is a treasure house for this trabecular bone. Hence, the precise evaluation is crucial to address this burden. But the body is the weakest of the construct. If we see, the mean BMD of the vertebral body is the lowest compared to the other parts. Hence, the fragility fractures. The health and economic burdens after fragility fractures are huge, where the mortality increases by 15%, and the patient falls into a vicious cycle where post-fracture, because of the pain, there'll be impaired physical function, which reduces the activities of the patient, leading to more sarcopenia and osteoporosis, leading to further fractures. So the most commonly used tool for the diagnosis of osteoporosis has been DEXA scan, and that too, it has a lot of pitfalls when it comes to the spine, since it does an aerial estimate of the integral bone density, and it does not differentiate between the sclerotic bone or the aortic calcification, if there's any fat overlap, and it's also affected by patient positioning, and there's a configuration bias from center to center. While the QCT is more precise, it enables us to focus on the region of interest, as it does a volumetric measure of the trabecular BMD and is not affected by any bony or fat overlap, and there's no discordance-related confusion. However, accessibility is still an issue for QCT. And as DEXA is more broadly accessible over QCT, it's also widely economical. Hence, it is important to know if the DEXA of hip or radius can be used as a surrogate marker to more efficiently diagnose osteoporosis. So coming to this study, it is a retrospective comparative study done between May 2018 and August 2021, where 355 postmenopausal women who were age-matched were randomly assigned between the DEXA and QCT. And patients with spinal tumors, rheumatoid arthritis, multiple myeloma, metastasis, endocrinopathies were excluded from the study. So coming to the results, 165 women underwent QCT while 190 underwent the DEXA. So most of the population in the osteoporotic group were diagnosed by QCT, while the patients diagnosed using DEXA scan were placed in the osteopenia group. So the difference between being statistically significant, the hypothesis is nullified. So coming to the conclusion, confidently I can say that QCT precision in estimating the trabecular BMD is unparalleled. QCT should be considered as a new gold standard for estimating spinal osteoporosis. Although in the scenario where there is no accessibility to QCT and the BMD is evaluated using DEXA, consider the lowest value in offering, which is usually the distal radius, since the ultimate goal is to combat osteoporosis by initiating appropriate anti-osteoporosis treatment. Thank you.
We can take the questions later. Can I call on the next speaker, please?
Yes, so Dr. Bala Pillai, surgical outcomes, yes. Do stick to time so that we have time for question and answers later.
Good afternoon. today my topic is about surgical outcome of osteoporotic wedge compression fracture with neurological deficit managed by short segment fixation augmented with cement and index vertebra. So the conventional management would be with a long segment fixation, the limitation of which carries a high morbidity, and it is contraindicated in like elderly and comorbid and poor bone qualities. So the alternative would be a short segment fixation with index screw cement, and so there is a limited evidence of safety, efficacy, and neurological recovery for this. So aim of the study is to assess the outcome of the short segment fixation and to assess the improvement of the neurological function post-operatively, pain reduction, functional outcomes, and radiological parameters like kyphotic angle and vertebral height restoration. So in our study is a retrospective study without control, and the sample size is 22 patients with a neurological deficit and osteoporotic wedge compression fracture. Follow-up with a minimum post-op follow-up of 6-month duration, and we used the Asia grading for assessing the neurological function and VAS score for pain, ODI for functional status, and radiological outcomes like vertebral height and kyphotic angle. So inclusion criteria: more than 50 years with osteoporotic fracture and unstable thoracolumbar burst fracture and neurologically deficit patient, and with a minimum 6 months post-op. So exclusion criteria would be a non-osteoporotic fracture, which includes traumatic and pathological fractures and complex fracture, multi-level fractures, which ultimately requires a long segment fixation, and posterior ligamentous disruption and kyphotic angle with more than 30 degree. So the clinical outcomes, the preoperative VAS score with an average of 8.6 has improved to 3.2, and pain reduction overall by 63%. Coming to the neurological improvement, there is at least one grade of improvement in Asia grade in around 68% of the patients, and 45% had ODI score reduction. And the radiological restoration, kyphotic angle, you can see it has decreased from around 20 to 25 to around 5 to 10. And there is an increase in the vertebral height from 40 to 80%. So this is the case 1 with a D10 burst fracture with Asia grade C and VAS score 9. So we fixed it, and with index screw cementation, post-operative, the patient improved to Asia grade of D and VAS score of 3. And this is the second case, which L2 burst fracture, again with the same with index screw cement. So patient with Asia grade B has improved with Asia grade D, and the VAS score has improved from 9 to 2. So again, this is another case with the same. The VAS score has improved from 8 to 2, and Asia grade C to E. So coming to the complications, we had cement leakage in 2 patients with no associated complications, and screw loosening in 2 patients. So the limitations of our study would be like there is no comparison with long segment fixation or conservative management, and the sample size is very small, like only 22 patients, and retrospective study there may be a selection bias and incomplete data collection. So coming to the conclusion, there is a significant improvement in the pain, neurological function, and quality of life, and there is a low complication rate. Radiologically, there is a very good improvement in the vertebral height, kyphotic deformity, and it is a viable alternative to the traditional long segment fixation. So it is comparable to the other thing like complication and cement leakage. Thank you.